I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Chris MacLean, Visual Effects Supervisor on the acclaimed sci-fi epic Foundation. Chris, first of all, Foundation set the bar so high for season one for how it meticulously told this story through this audacious, breathtaking visual storytelling. So, how did you feel about returning to the fold to embark on the show's second season?
Well, it was very congruous. We just kind of went from season one right into season two. Season two or season one took a lot longer to cut than a normal TV show to create, just because of the pandemic and it's getting shut down. We were basically on the show for almost 2 years, or a little over 2 years after season one, and we just kind of kept going now. With the season two coming out and it being completed, which we actually finished in kind of uh, a normal schedule. It was kind of nice to get that momentum up and just really kind of keep things moving forward. But again, we're very lucky to be working and just dealing with all of this stuff. So yeah.
What's it like as a visual effects supervisor and artist when you're kind of living and breathing a show for such a long time? You've been on this show for years now, because it
Yeah.
just takes so much time for these visuals to come to life, doesn't it?
It does. Rory Shane and I, the production designer, spent a lot of time kind of sussing out how we're going to build these worlds and kind of collaborate on them. But with David Goyer, but yeah, it's been a long run. I mean, we've been working on the show for 5 years. So it's pretty crazy to think about that. But to get it done and to just kind of deal with the complexities and every little thing that the writers want to bring to the screen is quite daunting when you try to look at it as a whole. So you kind of take it one day at a time and just make sure that you can focus on what's coming up and what's gonna be hitting
Yeah, because
next.
exactly, because you never know what it's going to be next week. Given this show is, I would say, probably the most visual effects dominant series currently on TV, and I'm curious how many shots do you typically oversee for a season? Put that into context for what you probably expect on other shows of the similar genre.
Well, that's the secret of Foundation, is we don't really have that many shots.
Okay.
As Rory and I spend so much time figuring out how we can get as much in camera as possible. On a show like ours, we might have, between 3,500 to 4,000 shots over a 10 season or 10 episode season. But, that they could have, double that on a show like Mandalorian or one of those other Star Wars shows. And a good example is which I think I know the answer to is a show like The Expanse. I think they were doing like 6,000 shots a season, whereas we're like I said, between 3,500 and 4,000. So,
Wow.
but we do that on a 1 hour episode for 10 episodes. The way that we kind of do that is we spend a lot more time in the shots and actually, spend our money on the bigger shots and try to keep all of the secondary or tertiary shots that you usually get, like, like wig fixes, beauty fixes, set extensions, all of that sort of thing that can eat up your budget really quickly. We try to keep that stuff to a minimum. Which helps us pay for the bigger, more extravagant shots, or more visually appealing shots, I guess.
So, what's the rationale, I guess, well, the decision making behind keeping a lot of the visual storytelling in camera as opposed to in post in CGI? Why has it been done that way?
Well, it's two pronged. One is to keep everybody honest, because filmmakers can get really lazy if they know that they have visual effects as a crutch to lean on. And the second prong is to make sure that we have the money for the big stuff, because if we spend it all on the set extensions or shooting off the set or whatever it ends up being, then we might have to lose a big space shot or a Demerzel robot shot, or a Becky shot from season 2. So we try to make sure that those are the shots that we really want to do. And then there's always going to be a percentage that are those secondary shots, but what we do want to avoid is like the tertiary shots or the surprise shots that come up, like in production. There's always something that comes up, like something's not ready, or something isn't like a prop might not be camera ready, and we have to clean that prop up 50 times or something like that. So Roy and I try very hard to make sure that all of that stuff is ready to go and camera ready, as opposed to me having to go back in and fix it or augment it later on. So, or my team, I mean,
I want to talk about a couple of the visual effects elements from season 2 that really blew my mind. And honestly, there's not a lot that takes my breath away these days, because we feel like a lot of audiences have seen it all, right? But this show, could we talk about the Demerzel and her regenerating head? Because that blew my mind. That was incredible.
That was actually one of the first things we shot in Ireland. But that was a huge, kind of, because Demerzel is kind of she's a special effect for us, and a special character for us, because we spent so much time with Lotta trying to figure out how we're going to do all of this stuff. So for that in particular, we had kind of a cutoff point where her head gets sliced off, and then she's got to fight. She's got to do all this work, and then she's got to go back to her quarters and kind of fix her head with her tools and all of that stuff. So we had her quarters in Ireland, and had to shoot that first before the fight, and before we dunked Lee in the regeneration tank. So those two things had to happen in Prague when we moved to Prague, but in Ireland we had to shoot that. So what we did with the prop or the prosthetics team was they gave us a nice thin slice or an edge where we were going to cut her based off the concept art that we had done, and then we put a black sock on her head, gave her a little eye hole so she could see, and then we shot her doing all of that with the tool. Part of it too was that the tools were extended as well, so we'd cut the end off the tool and then give her the practical handle to hold, and she would then go in a less than it's kind of like that magic trick. We just add a little bit of extra business to make it feel like, how did they do that kind of thing. So that was it. We cut the end off that, extended that, pushed that in, and then we came up with the kind of laser regeneration based off of the tool we were using for that. So it kind of triggers her nanoparticles to start building her weave back up, and to do that. And we came up just based off of that, and what David had written. We came up with the idea that her consciousness was decentralized, so she could get her head cut off, and she didn't really have a problem with that, because it's her whole nervous system is her consciousness. So and we really play that up in episode 9 as well of season 2, when she is sliced up. So
good. The other one is from earlier in the season as well. Jared Harris performed interacting in the Prime Radiant interior, multi-dimensional. I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just breathtaking, and it would have been so hard to shoot. Talk me through that one.
It was very hard to shoot, because we actually, much like the Tesseract from Interstellar, it got designed as we were going. So we had an idea of what it was going to be. It had originally been designed as a much more gold and clear thing, I've got this here, so I can.
Oh,
So
sweet.
it was meant
Yeah.
it was meant to be more like the prime rating itself, but we ended up going with a more black vault like appearance, just based off of time and where we were with the sets. But yeah, every little kind of four-dimensional move or anti grab or zero grab move that we had to do, we had a special kind of stunt set built where we would rig up Jared either laying down or standing up, and he would kind of turn or walk around, or we would spin the camera on a 360-degree head, just to kind of give that little bit of extra otherworldliness. But yeah, then we shot all that and then gave that to Rodeo Effects and Arnaud, the visual effects supervisor there, to kind of help us with concepting and get that sort of all integrated into a more cohesive environment based off of what we shot. And luckily, it all kind of worked out. So yeah, without too much retconning.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been another issue. So it brings me to this. Those are two examples. There's so many more. But obviously you take this job extremely seriously, right? This is your life's work at the moment. But do you ever just stop and think, wow, this is so freaking cool, when you get to do something that I guess audiences probably haven't seen before, which is what I referred to earlier. It doesn't get to happen very often. We feel like we've seen it. We're so savvy these days, but you get to do things that are going to blow people's minds like that. Is that just something that you just stop and think, wow, this is really cool?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to think about how we can push the limits of what we're showing people. A lot of the times, we end up wanting to turn back to what we know or rest on our laurels a little bit, and I'm always trying to push the envelope just a little bit more to try to get things a little bit different, a little bit more visceral, a little bit more relatable to the audience, while keeping it kind of awe-inspiring. Because if you try to, like like you said, the audience has kind of seen it all, but you always like to go back and look at a really nice painting, or listen to a really cool song, or something that just kind of blows your mind, and you try to re-experience that. So a lot of what we're trying to create is those moments that you can look back on and kind of enjoy and kind of go back to and remember in that same way. Even though sci-fi and everything that we're doing has been done before, or can be done. We just have to pick our moments and try to make it work, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. But
no, not at all. And yeah, I was also thinking, with Foundation, what I most enjoy, apart from this compelling story and the actors and this and just the whole kind of the arc of each of the characters' story, is how beautiful it is. It's so beautiful to look at. The costume work and of course the production designer have a lot to do with that. But when it comes time for your team to create or recreate something like Trantor or Synax or some of the spaceships, do you have any particular favorites that you look back on and think that's something that you'd like to put in your special, in your obituary? This is something that I created that looks amazing.
I mean, I always go back to season 1 and the arrival on Synax, or the departure from Synax. I mean, that was really, really special, even though it was very simple. It was a planet that was all water, and just creating like an atmosphere with the team at ILP, and just kind of coming up with those designs with Rory, and then just executing them, because we shot that all on the first episode. We shot that all on a lake in Iceland, which we're surrounded by mountains and looked nothing like what we'd shot. Eventually, we moved to Malta to shoot some of the shoot the rest of Synax. But yeah, that was an interesting experience, and just having that executed so well. I think that's probably my favorite thing we've done so far. In season 2, I think the vault interior with Jared and Harry in the vault is pretty great. And then I'd probably after that go to the Becky and Constant, and the whole idea of riding a bishop's claw, which we had a little bit of in season 1, but really kind of developed her as a character for season 2. And then just the space battle and the destruction of Terminus. Really, I mean, those were really the big highlights this season. So
Yeah, the destruction of Terminus was incredible. The Bishop's Claw, again, it's something that I haven't really seen before, and I just thought it was so beautiful. But honestly, Synax, we've seen water planets before, but with that, with the rings in the background and those beautiful pointed ships, and it just I'll never forget when I first saw Synax. I thought, oh, this show is next level. And on that note, Chris, thank you for your time today. We really, really appreciate it, and we love the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.